What if you found out today that you might already qualify for Canadian citizenship? Not because you moved there, not because you applied for a visa, but simply because of your bloodline. Millions of Americans are waking up to this reality right now, and immigration lawyers on both sides of the border are completely swamped with applications. This is not a rumor. This is not social media speculation. This is a real law that came into effect on December 15th, 2025. And if you have any Canadian ancestry at all, you need to hear every word of what we are about to tell you. Welcome to Canada Pathway Immigration, your most trusted source for everything related to Canadian immigration, citizenship updates, and the pathways that can change your life. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because we cover breaking Canadian immigration news every week and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Today we are breaking down Canada's new citizenship law, exactly who qualifies, what the process looks like, and what it will actually cost you. Let's start with what this law actually changed, because the shift is more significant than most people realize. Before December 15th, 2025, Canada only allowed citizenship to be passed down one generation. That means if your parent was Canadian, you could potentially claim citizenship. But if it was your grandparent or great-grandparent, you were out of luck under the old rules. That single-generation limit locked out enormous numbers of people who had genuine Canadian roots, but simply could not qualify because the connection was one generation too far back. The new law completely removes that one-generation ceiling. Under the updated rules, Canadian citizenship can now be passed down through your bloodline, regardless of how many generations back it goes. Your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, even further. As long as you can prove that you have a Canadian ancestor in your direct bloodline, the door to citizenship is now open to you. The one requirement is that your qualifying ancestor must have become a Canadian citizen on or after January 1st, 1947, or if your ancestry traces to Newfoundland and Labrador specifically, the relevant date is April 1st, 1949, which is when that province officially joined Canada. Now here's where we need to slow down and be very clear, because there has been a tremendous amount of misinformation circulating online about this law. You may have seen headlines or social media posts claiming that celebrities like Beyoncé, Timothée Chalamet, or Madonna could automatically become Canadian citizens because of some distant ancestry. That is simply not true. Having Canadian ancestry somewhere in your family tree does not automatically make you a citizen. You must be able to document and prove that ancestry clearly and completely. That means providing official records that trace your direct lineage through every single generation between you and your qualifying Canadian ancestor. It is a strict process, and shortcuts do not exist. So what does the actual process look like? If you believe you qualify, the starting point is a proof of citizenship application filed with the Canadian federal government. The application fee for this is 75 Canadian dollars, which works out to just under 55 US dollars at current exchange rates. That fee alone is very manageable. However, the real cost for most people is not the application fee. It is the research and documentation required to support it. Many applicants will need to hire a genealogist to trace their family records back through multiple generations, or an immigration lawyer to help structure and file the application correctly. Those professional services can run into the thousands of dollars depending on how far back you need to go and how complex your family history is. On the timeline side, the Canadian federal government's own website states that the process takes approximately 10 months from the time your application is submitted to when a decision is made. And right now, there are already more than 56,000 people in the queue waiting for decisions. That number has been climbing rapidly since the law came into effect, driven in large part by American applicants who have been rushing to explore their eligibility. Immigration lawyers on both sides of the border are describing their caseloads as completely overwhelming, with inquiries coming in from people who range from seriously committed to simply curious about whether they might qualify. Here is something important to understand about why Canada introduced this law and why the timing matters so much. Canada has long maintained that it needs immigration to sustain its economy, fill labor shortages, and support its population growth. At the same time, the Canadian government has faced criticism in recent years for bringing in too many people too quickly without the infrastructure and job market to absorb them all, which led to a scaling back of some immigration targets. But welcoming Americans is a different conversation entirely. Americans and Canadians share a language, a culture, and a border. Professional licensing between the two countries is closely aligned in many fields, which means a doctor, nurse, engineer, or skilled tradesperson from the United States can often begin working in Canada far more quickly and easily than someone coming from a completely different system. Several Canadian provincial governments have already publicly announced that they are actively seeking to attract medical professionals and specialists from the United States. This law gives those professionals, and millions of other Americans, a formal pathway to make that move permanent. If you want to find out whether you qualify, here is exactly what to do. Start with your family history. Talk to older relatives. Go through any documents you have, and look for any evidence of Canadian-born parents, grandparents, or ancestors going further back. Even a single Canadian ancestor born or naturalized before your family left Canada could be your qualifying link. Once you have identified a potential connection, the next step is to gather documentation: birth certificates, naturalization records, immigration records, and any official government documents that establish both your ancestors' Canadian citizenship and your direct relationship to them through every generation in between. If you are not sure where to start with the research, hiring a professional genealogist early in the process can save you a significant amount of time and frustration. What makes this moment especially significant is the contrast between what is happening in Canada and what is happening in the United States at the same time. While Canada is expanding access and opening pathways, the U.S. is moving in the opposite direction, tightening visa requirements, increasing processing times, reducing immigration benefit categories, and making the overall system harder to navigate for people from around the world. For Americans looking at that contrast, the appeal of a Canadian citizenship pathway, especially one rooted in ancestry and heritage, carries a weight that goes beyond just paperwork and fees. It represents a real alternative, a genuine option, and for millions of families, potentially a reunion with roots that were cut off generations ago. At Canada Pathway Immigration, we will continue tracking every development on this story as Canada processes this wave of applications and as more Americans discover whether they qualify under the new rules. This law is still being implemented, and there will be updates, clarifications, and important changes coming throughout 2026 that you will want to know about. If this video gave you something valuable today, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone you know who has Canadian roots, because they may not know this opportunity exists. Drop your questions in the comments below, and our team will do our best to address them. And subscribe to Canada Pathway Immigration right now so you never miss an update this important. Timing matters in immigration more than almost anything else, and right now, the window is open.